Your hands and your arms are probably your most powerful asset when it comes to creating speed, consistency, accuracy, ball striking. I'm sure you'll have heard terms in the past like take the hands out the shot, or this golfer's not consistent because they're handsy, or use the bigger muscles because it's going to be more consistent, or having stable wrists through the golf ball. All of these terms that get thrown around, they're actually just really false and actually damaging to your game. You can see I've got something on my wrist. This is the Hack Motion device. It's coming through my phone. You'll see that data on the screen. Okay, pretty good shot. My Hack Motion is measuring 3 different movements. It's measuring wrists kind of set this way. It's measuring wrist extension and flexion, and it's also measuring the rotation of my kind of forearms. Which of those movements was I using? Well, this is my flexion extension. You can see the graph going down, up, down, up. So throughout my golf swing, I was using that throughout. What about if we looked at my wrist set in the golf swing? So this is this movement. Well, the graph goes up and down and up. So throughout my golf swing, I was using wrist set. And what about rotation, which is sort of this movement here? Was I using that through the golf swing? Well, yes, I was using that through the backswing and through the downswing. So throughout my golf swing, I was using all 3 of those movements, and I hit a pretty good shot. If you want to play golf to a decent level, you have to make use of your hands and your wrists. Do it correctly, and you can make the game a lot easier. Do it incorrectly, and it's going to be a lot harder. So we're now going to go through those 3 movements. I'm going to teach you how to work on them and how you can implement them into your golf swing to make your game much better. Let's start with wrist set or wrist cock or whatever term you want to use. This is your source of power. Massive. If you want to hit the ball further, or maybe you're not feeling like you hit it as far as you want, this is really, really important. Now we've got this live through the Hack Motion. You can see that as I put my hand in that position there, you can see that is 0 because my wrist is not set, and I can change it down to sort of 48, and I can go back up to sort of +3 or +4. So this is my wrist set. What I'd love you to do here is push the grip end down. So this is why I've got this T here. I'm going to push that down towards the ground as I work the club head up towards me. And I'm going to try and do that without really moving my forearms too much. So that would be sort of this movement here. And hopefully you can see that the grip, or that T, is moving down as the club head is moving up. And as I do that, just have a look at those numbers. You can see I'm starting at sort of -35 there. And as I go back up, it's sort of +10. So I'm changing that by around about 45 degrees. Now what I'd like you to do is actually just go ahead and try and put a little bit of speed, a little bit of force there. So you're going up and down, up and down, up and down. Almost like you're trying to hammer something into the ground. The key part to all of this, I'm using basically the kind of heel pad on my left hand to push this part of the grip down as I work the club head up. The reason that's important is because many golfers, when they come to set their wrist, are actually using, if you look at those numbers, -35, they are using their elbows to lift the club up. So look at that number now, -36, it hasn't changed. So we can easily take a setup position here, -35. We can feel as if we work the club head up into the air, but you can see it hasn't really changed. It's only -27. I feel like I've got the club up vertical, but I haven't really used my wrists. It's come from my elbows. So what we're going to do, second little exercise, I'm going to place a golf ball, probably some, whatever that is, 2 feet back behind the ball that I'm hitting. And what I want you to do now is start this way, get a feel for what that's like. Again, I can see those numbers changing. And as I start to do that, add a little backswing rotation. And we should start to get the tee to pretty much point down at the golf ball. And again, you can see, look at my number there, +22. Where did I start? Sort of -33, -34, -35. So I'm using my wrists effectively by around about, well, fair bit there, 50 degrees. So we start here, there's my feeling, tee down, club head up, use that into a backswing, and suddenly we've got this beautiful position. And because I push the tee down and away, it elongates my lead arm. It means I'm not going to get narrow or cramped. It means I'm going to get nice width. I'm going to get that tee pointing down. There's my wrists in their set position. Then what I can do on the way through is I can undo that. That is where you get so much of your power from. When you take your wrists from a set position and you uncock them down through impact, which you have to do because the ball's down on the ground, it's a massive source of power. But I want you to just focus on the backswing move and actually getting some energy stored up in those wrists before you come to unload it in the downswing. Next up, we're going to talk about the lead arm and about this movement. So you can see that ball went pretty straight. Not very far, but pretty straight. Look at that purple line. That's measuring my rotation of my lead arm. So it starts here. In the backswing, it rotates through around about 90 degrees. And then from the top of the backswing down through impact, it rotates back to where it started and then through. And the ball went pretty straight. Why is that such an important move? Well, the wrists are creating the power in your golf swing. Okay, this is just my wrists. But where is that sort of club head being directed? It's being directed down into the ground. It's not really where I want my energy and my direction of swing to be. I want my swing to be out towards the target. So watch what happens when I change my lead arm rotation. This would be me creating some sort of wrist set. But if I rotate my lead arm away from the target, guess what? That sets the shape of the swing. So having some lead arm rotation like this allows me to direct the power from my wrists towards the target. So here's the little exercise. I mean, you kind of saw me do it there, but I'm just going to tee another ball up. Club up, tee down. Exercise 2, rotate that forearm through 90 degrees. That sets the shape and the plane of my swing. Okay, I'm going to turn a little bit, putting my hands outside of my trail thigh. And I want you to think about the logo on my glove here. Okay, the TaylorMade logo. It's going to go from here, back to the target, and then actually slightly behind me. So we go wrists, rotate the forearm, that sets the angle, put it outside my leg, and then we go through. There was my forearm rotating. It went pretty straight, a little bit right, but I'm sure you'll let me off. And you can see that we got that sort of graph moving as we wanted there, rotates back, rotates through. So what you're starting to do there is you're starting to create speed and power through your wrists, and you're using your forearm rotation to control the direction of that power. Power's no good if it's all over the place, if it's way left or way right. And you might have experienced that. You might have tried to increase power and lost direction. Well, if you can make sure this lead wrist is rotating like this, then it's going to help with your direction. So this movement. Now this ties everything together. If you get this wrong, those first two that we've discussed are going to be incredibly hard. Let's add our first two movements in. Now, when I start to move that number to a positive number by like 37, 38, well, even to 40, look at the club face. That is pointing way up to the sky, which at this point in my golf swing is very, very open. I mean, it's rare to see anybody in this position. But what it means is, because that club face is open, I have to work incredibly hard from there to get the club face squared up. Now, can I do it? Yes, if I'm prepared to go to the driving range 4 times a week and hit thousands and thousands of balls. And equally, it's not great if we go the opposite way, if we sort of put that to a massively negative number. And you can see how the club face points down towards the ground because my wrist is arched. This is more likely to go left. It doesn't necessarily mean it will. And again, I'm just going to have to work so much harder. So we want that club face in a neutral position to enable us to do those first two exercises correctly. So here's a little exercise I want you to do. I'm going to use this little pointer. So I want you to take your setup to a golf ball. You're going to make a backswing. And when you get down towards the delivery position, I want you to have the idea or the feeling that that pointer is slightly down towards the ground. Not a huge amount. Notice how that number now is -10. That minus means that my wrist is slightly flexed or arched or bowed. That is perfect. That is exactly what we want, because it means that the club face is under control and you've got left this movement, which is speed. So this is another speed generator, but it's also another factor in direction. Work up, down, there's the pointer. Number is pretty good, -3. Okay, back up, work it down, -7. Up, work it down, -7. And you can see how just with that pointer, I can get those numbers pretty consistent because I've got a reference point. Okay, without the club face, without the pointer, I'm just kind of getting in space. So this is a really, really good way for you to train exactly what you need. And if I stop here, look at what I've got in place. My lead wrist is slightly flexed, which is perfect. It means the club face is under control. My forearm is rotated by 90 degrees, which means my plane is good. And I've got some wrist set. From here, everything is lined up. I can play golf from there. I can hit solid shots that are straight with consistency, that have got power and speed and efficiency and strike, all those things. So many of you will be not using your wrist well enough, having the club face open, rotating your arms incorrectly, and all of those movements give you erratic shots. It cause you to lose power. It makes it more difficult to be consistent. It's so much more difficult. Well, it was pretty straight. So important that we use the hands. They are your biggest tool.